OK， 好，所以进来就是这个界面啊。这个界面呢，它说 You are about to begin part one of the exam, speaking and writing. Time allowed. 大概是77 to 93 minutes. Remember to put your headphone on before beginning this section. 那这里的话呢，倒是想跟大家就是简单的讲一讲。那么你们自己在做模考的过程当中呢，在这里一定要确保你是戴了一个耳机的。那么其实很多同学都在戴耳机这件事情上有过一些失败的经历，然后就非常的这个迷茫，对吧？非常的 confused。那我到底应该要怎么样呢？那么我们之前其实有专门写过一篇文章，就是告诉大家，其实在模考的过程当中，我们有见过很多同学，就是哪怕他戴了耳机，也有不录入的，也有同学根本就没戴耳机，他可能就直接用的就是他电脑上，尤其是笔记本电脑一般都会自带麦克风，也有同学就是用麦克风的这种，他也就正常的录入了。所以呢，这个我个人觉得有两个东西是关键，一个呢就是你的耳机或者是你的麦克风是非常好的品质，而且呢它不是无线的，因为无线耳机我们其实试过几种，哪怕是苹果呀或者是等等一些比较好的品牌，其实都会有一些杂音录进来。那么第二个呢，就是你自己所在的一个环境一定要相对来说是非常非常安静的。那这两个关键因素，我觉得把握住的话，大家一般录入是不会有太大问题的。你看我的话，我今天用到的就是最普通的这种，就是苹果有线耳机。那么因为我两个耳机都戴着的话，我说话我会觉得有点不舒服，所以我其实只戴了一边。那大家自己在家做的时候，两个耳机就戴上就可以了，好不好？好，所以开始之前呢，跟大家说一下，那么我们就准备开始了。好紧张。Credit unions are nonprofit organizations that were imported to the United States from Germany in the early 1900s. They were regulated in 1934 by the Federal Credit Union Act, which limits membership to groups having a common bond of occupation or association. Groups from particular geographical areas also were eligible to join credit unions. 好，调节一下。OK， 阅读。There are two main types of market research. Quantitative research involves collecting a lot of information by using techniques such as questionnaires and other forms of survey. Quantitative research involves working with smaller samples of consumers, often asking them to discuss products and service while researchers take notes about what they have to say. 我稍微啰嗦一点，就是在这个位置我会稍微看一眼这个倒数计时。There are two main types of market research. Quantitative research involves collecting a lot of information by using techniques such as questionnaires and other forms of survey. Qualitative research involves working with smaller samples of consumers, often asking them to discuss products and services while researchers take notes about what they have to say. 刚刚不知道为什么有一点走神了，就后面那个位置有一点点卷到舌头。This course provides an introduction to the history, development of the British legal system. The aim is to describe the evolution of common law of England, the legal system of England, and the legal profession of England. And to 这个地方好多 and， 所以这里大家到时候在读的时候可能要稍微注意一下。To the study of constitution law, and to the legal aspects of constitutional systems of government. This course provides an introduction to the history and development of the British legal system. Its aim is to describe the evolution of the common law of England, the legal system of England, and the legal profession of England, and to introduce you to the study of constitutions as law, and to the legal aspects of constitutional systems of government. This is an extremely useful resource which makes books and academic papers on subjects, not only in terms of their reliability, but also their readability. As a result, it is likely to save students time and effort that would otherwise have to spend working through a lot of dense tests before finding the one they really need. Working through a lot of dense tests before finding the right. This is an extremely useful resource which ranks books and academic papers on the subject not only in terms of their reliability, but also their readability. As a result, it is likely to save students time and effort that would otherwise have been spent working through a lot of dense tests before finding the one they really need. Closure activities allow participants to consolidate learning, say goodbye to group mates, and attend to any unfinished business prior to the ending of the group experience. Generally, these activities involve some reflection upon what has been learned or accomplished during the preceding time together, and the sharing of those thoughts or insights with other participants. 哇，这个好难，译训比较长。Closure activities allow participants to consolidate learning, say goodbye to group mates, and attend to any unfinished business prior to the ending of the group experience. Generally, these activities involve some reflection upon what has been learned or accomplished during the preceding time together, and the sharing of those thoughts or insights with other participants. Thus, language acquisition might be like other biological functions. The linguistic clumsiness, 这个词笨拙 clumsiness of tourists and students might be the price we pay for the linguistic genius we displayed as babies, such as the decrepitude 嘛 something 吧，我们就好不好 decrepitude. Thus, language acquisition might be like other biological functions. The linguistic clumsiness of tourists and students might be the price we pay for the linguistic genius we displayed as babies, just as the something of age is the price we pay for the vigor of youth.
I look forward to meeting you and to helping you realize your goals.
I look forward to meeting you and helping you to realize your goals.
Read the fitness center instructions before attempting to use the equipment.
Read carefully the instructions before attempting to use the equipment.
The books are filled with drawings of machines he invented when he was a student.
The books joined with machines something as his students.
Financial support can be offered to help pay your fees and other costs.
Financial support can be offered to help you to pay fees and other costs.
It is necessary to solve the equation to determine the unknown variable.
It is necessary to solve the equation equation to meet the necessary variables.
The book is informative, but it could be accused of political bias.
The book is informative, but it could be accused of political bias.
During an official ceremony, a memorandum of understanding was signed by the academic dean.
During the official ceremony, the memorandum is signed by the official officers.
Our tutorial will take place on the second floor in room 1.
Our tutorial will take place on the second floor in room 1.
The library offers group study rooms so you can work with other students.
The library offers group study rooms so you can work with other students.
Proficiency in a foreign language may be demonstrated by assessment.
Proficiency in the language may be assessed in assessment. 终于结束了，来到了我最爱的 DI。这不是那个基金题吗？以前模考是没有基金的，然后现在居然加入了这个基金题，这个是超级高频的一道题。那我们还是无脑的用模板去处理就好了。那我基本上是不太需要准备 DI 的。This graph shows the information about average rainfall in inches. As we can see, the largest number can be found in New York, which is around 47 inches. The smallest number can be found in Phoenix, which is around 7 inches. The other is Dallas and Honolulu. Dallas is about 33 inches and Honolulu is about 22 inches. According to the graph, it's clearly to see that New York has much more average rainfall than Phoenix. In conclusion, this is a very understandable graph. 是比较简单，对吧？顺便说一点啊，就是在这个录音停止之后呢，大家如果觉得说有一点紧张的话，可以稍微缓一缓，在考试的时候，但也就稍微啊，可能就2-3秒这样啊，然后我们就点 next。那如果说你自己提前讲完了，也不要再磕磕巴巴的去补充什么，那我们直接点 next 也是完全可以的啊。那这样的话就阻断了其他多余的声音被录进去啊。我们看到一个流程图啊，流程图的话呢也是非常非常的简单。那么如果大家很紧张的话呢，你注意看一下，就是你可能要决定你从哪个开始说起，并且把每一个流程的单词可能要稍微的这样准备一下。Retailer manufacturer. This graph shows the information about how things can be recycled. In the first step, we can see an icon says manufacturers. The next step is a picture that we can see retailers. The third step is the picture that we can see is consumers. The final step we can see is the recycles. This graph shows the information about how stuff can be recycled. It is a quite clear and understandable graph. 还行，是不是啊？东西很少，就慢一点讲，但是咱们的重音和节奏要维持住啊。Anyway， 我也不是口语老师啊，赶紧甩锅啊！注意看题目啊，还是大小值，对不对啊？找最高最小这样。This graph shows the information about the amount of food wasted per year in the United Kingdom. according to the graph, we can see the largest number can be found in private household, which is around 8 megatons per year. According to the graph, we can see the smallest number can be found is distribution and retail companies, which is around a little bit about 0 megatons per year. The other two, as we can see, is hospitality sector and institutions. 啊，我可能稍微讲慢了一点，因为我刚刚没有看到这个 megatons， 这个 megatons，OK， 当然没有太大的关系，对不对啊？我们就是很镇定啊，讲的不好没关系，下一题，对不对？哎又是一个蛮高频的一个题，对不对啊 ？The life cycle of a frog， 对吧？我就喜欢这种有 title 的，我相信大家也都很喜欢啊，所以这种字也比较多，对不对？然后你可以就是 tadpole， 你可以说啊，这个好可爱，对不对？好，我们准备开始了。This graph shows the life cycle of a frog. The first step is eggs. We can see a lot of eggs here. After that, we can see its embryo. And the third step is tadpole. After that, we can see the tadpole with 2 legs. And after that, we can see its tadpole with 4 legs. And finally, the tadpole with 4 legs goes into a frog. This is the life cycle of a frog. As we can see, there in total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps in the life cycle of a frog. 又来了这个霸图还是蛮开心的啊！所以吸取刚刚的经验啊，就是真的要把这个纵轴稍微看一下啊，真的。所以稍微看一下这个纵轴，如果有时候它字是横过来的话，那么大家赶紧机智一点，就这样把头这样转过来，这样看一下啊。尤其是单词比较难的时候，对不对？ This graph shows the percentage of students aged from 5 to 17 taught at home in the United States. According to the graph, we can see the smallest number can be found in 1999, which is about 1.7%. And the largest number can be found in 2012, which increased to 3.4%. The other 2 years are 2003, which is 2.2%, and 2007, which is 2.9%. In total, we can see an increase in the percentage of students taught at home. Percentages from disadvantaged background entering university in England. 60% increase 啊，这个应该是一个 in total 对吧？所以在这里的话，我们可能要稍微注意一下，就是它纵轴不是很清楚啊，所以这里我们可能认为是一个大概12对吧 ？13这种可以的。This graph shows the information about percentage of students from disadvantaged backgrounds entering university in England. In the 2016, we can find that the percent is only about 12%. At the end of the graph, we can see in 2014, the number has increased to almost 20%, which is around 18%. In total, there is about 8 years length. The total number has increased about 60%. Oh, the retail lecture.
So let me begin with the notion of a dimension. The dimension is simply how many numbers that you need to specify a location. So if we think about the surface of the Earth, the equator is one-dimensional. You need to specify only one number to specify a location on the equator, namely the longitude. The surface of the Earth altogether is, of course, two-dimensional. You need to specify 2 numbers, the latitude and longitude, to specify a location on the Earth. The space above the Earth is 3-dimensional. If I want to tell you the location of a hang glider, I need to give you the latitude, longitude, and altitude. But mathematically, there's no reason to stop at 3 dimensions. A 4-dimensional space is simply a space in which you need to specify 4 numbers to specify a location in that space. A 5-dimensional space would be one in which you need to specify 5 numbers, etc. In fact, I claim you already know an example of a 4-dimensional space. So let's define an event just to be an occurrence that happens in a small region of space at a definite time. In other words, an event is like a snap of your fingers or a clap of your hands. And now the collection of all events, if I want to specify an event, I need to give you 4 numbers. I need to tell you where it happens in space and when it happens in time.
这个也是个基金啊，是不是？ This lecture talks about dimensions and the numbers needed to specify a location. If you need to specify a location on the equator, you need 1 number, which is the longitude. If you need to specify 2 numbers, you need the longitude and the latitude. If it's 3-dimensional, we need the longitude, latitude, and the altitude. If it's 4-dimensional, we need 4 numbers, which is longitude, latitude, altitude, and time. The mathematics don't stop. So if we are telling about events or occurrence, we also need where it happened and when it happened. 哇，要讲的东西太多了，对吧？其实不用讲这么多，其实真的不用讲这么多。我又做了一个超坏的 example。OK， 下一道题的话呢，我可能就是用模板，而且讲的东西要稍微少一点。好不好？一定要抑制住自己在这一道题当中想要去组织过多的语言，导致你可能有的时候会卡顿啊，像我这样。然后呢，有的时候可能句子还不是很 make sense， 对不对啊？所以我们把它缩减到词或者是词组，然后套到模板里去就可以了啊。
The first results on the Welsh language were reported in March 2003. The census found that there were 576,000 Welsh speakers aged 3 and over, or 21% of the population, which represents a 2% increase since 1991. The proportion of people in Wales aged 3 and over who can speak, read and write Welsh increased from 13.6% to 16.3% over the period 1991 to 2001. A further 138,000, or 5% of the population, said they understood Welsh but did not speak it. In addition, 84,000 gave a combination of positive responses that was imprecise, making it difficult to work out whether they could understand, speak, read, or write Welsh. The growth in the number of Welsh speakers has occurred largely in the south and east of the country.
This graph shows the information. This lecture talks about the 2001 census data in Welsh speakers. This lecture talks about the total number of speakers. This lecture talks about some of the speakers can understand, read, and write speakers, which is about 40% to 16%, and some of it can only understand Welsh language. But the rest 48%, it is difficult to be positive that whether they can understand Welsh or speak Welsh, read Welsh, or write Welsh. This only happens in the southern part of the country. 哇塞，全都是基金。
The most visible manifestation of this wealth was a series of grand projects that were begun by Napoleon III, mainly in Paris, soon after he came to power in the 1850s. He said, I want to be a second Augustus, making reference to the Emperor Augustus's claim that he'd found Rome a city of brick and left it one of marble. In the case of Napoleon III, he found Paris in 1851 a city of cobblestones and twisting medieval streets, and he left it one of asphalt and macadam, because what he began doing was bulldozing old Paris the ancient medieval part of Paris and replacing it with wide new boulevards, 85 miles of them, that he lit with some 20,000 gas lamps, which he took out all the old 18th century oil lamps, replaced them with gas, which gave a much cleaner, brighter, regular light. Also 50,000 trees are planted alongside them, many of them the chestnut trees that we now think of as synonymous with Paris. And he drained the streets with 200 miles of sewers, these new famous Parisian sewers beneath the streets, thereby making the city a much more safer, pleasant place to wander, to stroll, to people watch, to have coffee or absinthe in the cafes.
讲他怎么把这个拿破仑怎么把巴黎变得更好 ，a better place to be, right? This lecture talks about the grand projects that Napoleon III has done in Paris. He basically built the Paris from the medieval city to wider boulevards. This lecture also talks about he exchanged the lamps to the gas lamps. He basically built more trees, the chestnut trees. He also built the drains in the streets and the sewers, and he makes the Paris place a safer place and a much more pleasant place to have coffee and wandering about the street. Okay, 下一题.
How many years are in a decade?
10.
What do you use to identify yourself when you arrive in a foreign country?
A passport.
What do you press when you arrive at someone's front door?
A doorbell.
In which academic field do people study things that happened in the past?
History.
What is the occupational title for the composer of a novel?
An author. A writer. A novelist. 我也不知道是哪个，所以我说了好多个。
What do you call a person who is receiving care in a hospital?
A patient.
The terms circumference, diameter, and radius refer most commonly to which geometric shape?
Circle. Round.
What do you call a person who trains a team of athletes?
A coach.
To find a detailed topographical map of Africa, what kind of reference book would be best to use?
A map? 是地图吗?
What is the term for an extended speech by one person in a play?
Talk show.